So what are the key elements of our IoT system? IoT devices and the data, which is stored on clouds, right? So again, we are talking about IoT device collect the data and transmit it securely to an internet connected gateway that compresses the data and send it to them. So सबसे पहले तो connectivity आ गया. Another element, this data is sent to the cloud for the sharing, for the further analysis, right? To perform the various analytics, data analytics, big data analytics, real-time analytics, then display within the app to provide users with a meaningful information. So IoT का main component क्या हो गया? Connectivity and the data. The data sender, the data will be sent, data will be received, the analytics will be performed in between, and all this will be done with the help of interconnectivity of the devices. So again, what 7 major components comes under the IoT ecosystem? The IoT devices, the various IoT devices, security, the network layer, the gateway, the cloud, and the application you are using, and the user who is using that application. So 7 components are needed for a IoT system. Now, how the IoT device, what comes under the IoT device? Again, we have talked about the various smart objects, the sensor, the actuators. We have talked about this that collect the data about the environment and measure the physical parameters, right? So as we have already mentioned, the basic elements of our Internet of Things ecosystem are the sensors, or the simply things. Sensors are the perceptions of the IoT system, right? Whose main function is to extract the information from the environment and convert it into the data, and that data will be used for the purpose. So Internet of Things ecosystem, it is rare to find only one type of a sensor or the actuator. How? Why? Because there are many types of a sensor. And now what are the different types of a sensor we are talking about? Again, we are talking about sensors. So when we are talking about the ecological state of Earth, we are talking about the temperature sensor, right? We are talking about the proximity sensors, water quality sensors, chemical sensors, right? So sensors को भी further हम अगर detail में we will talk about the sensors. So what comes under the temperature sensor? Example, we have talked about yesterday that the IoT application is the agriculture, right? Agriculture में कैसे use हो रहा है? So there are one or more common and the popular. A wide range of industries can use this sensor to measure the temperature of an industrial machinery to monitor its condition. ठीक है, जैसे अभी हमने ऊपर AC का एग्जाम्पल लिया, और अगर हम एग्रीकल्चर में IoT एप्लीकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं तो वहाँ पर सॉइल का टेम्परेचर क्या है, सॉइल की क्वालिटी क्या है, टू मॉनिटर द टेम्परेचर ऑफ अ पेशेंट कंटिन्यूअसली और टू मॉनिटर द कंडीशन ऑफ अ फार्मर सॉइल. तो यहाँ पर तीनों एप्लीकेशन का एग्जाम्पल दे रहे हैं. टेम्परेचर सेंसर्स कहाँ यूज होंगे? सब कैटेगरी क्या है आपकी? थर्मोकपल्स, RTDs, infrared sensors, and etc. Here we are talking about a particular technology. Now, proximity sensors. They are the popular IoT devices because they save light in thousands of homes with these sensors when no one is around, right? Subcategory क्या है आपकी? Inductive sensors, photoelectric sensors, and the ultrasonic sensors. Then the water quality sensors, they are particularly important due to the ocean pollution, right? So water pollution की बात करें अगर हम, so water की quality क्या है उसको sense करने के लिए, जैसे आप रियल टाइम एग्जांपल लें तो जब आप RO की सर्विसिंग कराते हैं तो सेंसर के थ्रू वाटर की क्वालिटी को चेक करते हैं. Because these sensors can help monitor water conditions and detect the sources of a pollution in real time. वो तो मैंने आपको ऐसे एग्जांपल दिया, बट यहाँ पर हम इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. सो वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द कंप्लीट वाटर पॉल्यूशन. सब कैटेगरीज रेसिडुअल क्लोरीन सेंसर, टर्बिटरी सेंसर्स एंड द pH सेंसर्स. Further, chemical sensors we are talking about. These monitor chemical changes in the air, which is extremely important in the large cities where the air pollution problem continues to worsen. तो क्या केमिकल है एयर के अंदर, कैसी एयर क्वालिटी है, उसे चेक करने के लिए केमिकल सेंसर्स. These sensors are also useful in industrial environment, monitoring the hazard does chemical detection and the radioactive detection. जहाँ पर केमिकल की इंडस्ट्री है वहां पर कितना केमिकल हेल्थ के लिए कैसे बेसिकली वर्क करेगा, कितना केमिकल है क्या है उसको सेंस करने के लिए. तो सब कैटेगरीज और द technology here we are using the chemical field effect transistor, the hydrogen sulfide sensor, or the potentiometric sensor. So here we have talked about the different kinds of a sensor. Somewhere we are talking about the automation, the proximity sensor. Somewhere we are talking about the temperature sensors, the water quality sensors, or the chemical sensors. Now another term, the security. Definitely, कल भी हमने पढ़ा था कि security is very challenging in IoT. It is a part that includes all other parts, provides the security for the data transfer and prevent the unauthorized connections outside the Internet of the Things of our ecosystem. जो आपके वाईफाई के या आपके इंटरनेट से कनेक्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए, right? So we also see the number of IoT devices or the attacks or the skyrocketed. Therefore, every system or every IoT system needs a strong level of security that at least protect against the most common vulnerabilities. अब क्या है? First is the access. Who can access, right? So access control, security की अगर बात करें तो how it should be maintained, access control to the IoT network. Anyone who connects to the network has access to all its devices, making broken authentication problem particularly acute. So whenever IoT devices can also trust the local network so that no further authentication is required. So somewhere the automation under the access control under the IoT network. Then prevention of a results from research. Then prevention of a data loss during the data transfer over the network. अब data loss नहीं हो, right? Because but data loss तो नहीं होता, but big data जब आपका collect होता है तो data ambiguity possible हो जाती है. तो data must be encrypted through the IoT systems using the protocols such as the ES, DES or the DSA. इन protocols के बारे में पहले कभी पढ़ा है? AES क्या होता है?
Encryption.
AES और DES फुल फॉर्म क्या होगी AES की? इंक्रिप्शन तो है, E फॉर द इंक्रिप्शन, DES में भी इंक्रिप्शन है, AES में भी इंक्रिप्शन है. AES की फुल फॉर्म क्या होगी? एडवांस्ड इंक्रिप्शन स्टैंडर्ड, राइट? एंड DES की फुल फॉर्म क्या होगी? AES stands for the advanced encryption standard, DES stands for the data encryption standard, and DSA क्या होगा? तो बता सकते हैं?
Digital signature algorithm.
हाँ जी, digital signature algorithm. So these algorithms or the encryption techniques we are using so that the data should not be lost. So prevention of a data loss. When we are talking about the security component of IoT ecosystem, we are talking about the different protocols. The data must be encrypted through the IoT system using the protocols such as the advanced encryption standard or the data encryption standard, like DSA and others. Now lock for the malicious software. What is that? Software bugs, right, can sometimes trick attackers into executing their code on the IoT devices. क्या करते हैं attackers? करते हैं जो कोड है वो पर्टिकुलर सॉफ्टवेयर में एग्जीक्यूट करके उस सॉफ्टवेयर को यूज करते हैं. Hence the software versions need to be corrected, right? Version control होना चाहिए. When a vulnerability is found. So तीन तरीके से हमने सेंसर पढ़े 4 टाइप्स के. नाउ वी आर गोइंग इन डिटेल अबाउट द IoT इकोसिस्टम. we have talked about the four types of sensors, and then we have talked about the how the security will be maintained. So इसके साथ इंटरनेट ऑफ इकोसिस्टम इज safeguarded by the number of firmware and the security providers. अब जो firm से हम, what is a firmware, right? Whatever we are getting from a particular firm, the number of firmwares safeguarded by the number of firmwares and the security providers, including the Azure Sphere, Linux OS, Mocana, Spartan, Polyscott, Semantics, etc. So most Internet of Things vendors and the IoT device manufacturers also need to pay more attention to basic security guidelines. So बहुत सारे security because is a major challenge in the IoT or the big data or the internet. So security providers भी हैं, different protocols कैसे कैसे हम security को encrypt करेंगे data को, वो भी है, लेकिन हमें क्या सिक्योरिटी गाइडलाइंस को फॉलो करना है, वो गाइडलाइंस क्या है? द डिवाइस बूट प्रोसेस शुड बी प्रोटेक्टेड फ्रॉम रनिंग इनएप्रोप्रिएट पीस ऑफ अ कोड, जिसमें हम सॉफ्टवेयर बग को बार बार कंट्रोल करेंगे, सॉफ्टवेयर को मेंटेन करेंगे. देन द क्रिप्टोग्राफिक कीज मस्ट बी यूज्ड टू एग्जीक्यूट ऑल कमांड्स ऑन द डिवाइसेस, जिसमें हम डिफरेंट प्रोटोकॉल्स इंक्रिप्शन स्टैंडर्ड्स को यूज करेंगे. दिस इज स्पेशली इंपॉर्टेंट व्हेन मैनेजिंग द IoT अपडेट्स, राइट? All commands and the control information must pass through a gateway to avoid direct access to the device outside the network. जिसमें हमें authenticated device को ही access करवाना है network में. Now, all IoT devices must install the security patches whenever a new security flow is detected. Right? So, IoT devices में security कैसे maintain होनी है? सीधे keywords में देखा जाए तो ऑथेंटिकेशन मेंटेन करके, राइट, सॉफ्टवेयर बग को मेंटेन करके और क्रिप्टोग्राफिक कीज को मेंटेन करके. अनदर कंपोनेंट, द नेटवर्क लेयर. व्हाट इज अ नेटवर्क? द नेटवर्क इज द लॉजिस्टिकल पार्ट ऑफ द इंटरनेट थिंग्स ऑफ अ इकोसिस्टम. लॉजिकली कैसे कनेक्टिविटी प्रोवाइड की जाएगी बिटवीन द डेटा और द एप्लीकेशन लेयर. द नेटवर्क इज आल्सो नोन एज द कनेक्टिविटी लेयर between the data or the application the user is using. It is responsible for all the communication within the IoT system, whether connecting, we are talking about connecting the smart objects, whether you are connecting a smart watch to your mobile also, transferring the data and commands between IoT stages and connecting to the cloud. So what are the means of communication comes under the network? So when we are talking about a network, we are talking about the communication only. So there are two means of a communication. What is the first means of a communication? ये आपने बहुत बार पढ़ा होगा टॉपोलॉजीज के बारे में, TCP/IP प्रोटोकॉल के बारे में, लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क के बारे में, लैन वैन मैन, राइट? सो फर्स्ट मोड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन क्या है? द फर्स्ट मोड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन अकर्स लोकली इन द लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क between the IoT devices and the smart gateways with the short range wireless communication protocols, right? Communication mode is optional because the sensors can connect directly to the cloud with the internet using the TCP/IP protocol. So whether we are talking about connecting the devices physically or whether we are talking about connecting the device to the sensors over the cloud or using the TCP/IP protocol. So however, connecting with a non-IP protocol consumes less power, definitely, because the devices connect to the local smart gateway instead of trying to access the main server in the cloud. So somewhere the efficiency will be, or the fast work will be there. So most popular short distance protocol for the IoT architectures are wireless internet access. So we will talk about all these in a detail. Now, another is the Bluetooth and the Bluetooth low energy, right? Bluetooth low energy for the less powerful devices that generate the less data. Zigbee, a universal solution that connects all the smart devices. The new near field communication, NFC, radio frequency identification, जो आप architecture में बहुत पढ़ेंगे, Sigfox. All these basically we are talking about the local area networks. If the system needs to cover the long distance in the range of a mile, it can use a low power wide area network, or the LTWAN, designed for the long distance wireless data transfer also. So first mode of a communication we have talked about. Another second mode of a communication in the network layer occurs when the data of a things are transferred to the cloud. In case there is no smart gateway, in case of a communication between the smart gateways and the cloud. So here we are talking about the basic protocol, IPv6 protocol. The network layer establishes a connection between the local area network and the internet. Local network and the internet. So all we are saying that जब आपको सर्च करते हैं, राइट, आप सर्वर से नेट में इंटरनेट पे सर्च करते हैं, whatever you are searching, somewhere you get a very fast result within a milliseconds, in a seconds you get a result of your search. How it is possible? Because somewhere the data you are searching again and again is stored in your local disk only. Somewhere the history has been generated. So here we are talking about the network layer establish a connection between a local network and the internet, the local disk and the server, right? So जब कभी बहुत जल्दी आपको रिजल्ट सर्च होता है तो वो पहले से ही आपके लोकल डिस्क में कहीं ना कहीं कुकीज होता है. So another component, gateway. IoT gateway is a physical or the virtual platform, right, that mediates between the IoT device and the cloud. कैसे उसे वे प्रोवाइड करेगा? The IoT gateway can be considered pretty important in the IoT system. Wow, how? Gateway को और हम क्या बोलेंगे? जहाँ टेक्नोलॉजी, जहाँ आपके स्टैंडर्ड्स चेंज हो जाते हैं, वो गेटवे के अकॉर्डिंग ही होता है. So there are seven main functions of a IoT gateway. क्या? सबसे पहले तो फ्लो ऑफ डेटा को कंट्रोल करेगा. डेटा जैसे ट्रांसफर होगा तो कंट्रोल द फ्लो ऑफ डेटा इन द IoT systems ecosystem. The data flow goes through the gateway from one device to the cloud and in the opposite direction only. तो एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे जाने के लिए हेल्प करता है. Then it ensures the security of the transmission of information in both the directions. उसके बाद वो security भी provide करता है. Also transmit the commands from the cloud to the IoT devices. Now it pre-process the data. पहले से ही data को process करके रखता है before sending it to the cloud. With the help of a gateway filters, aggregate, synthesize and aggregate traffic from the different devices, जिससे हमारा traffic control होता है. Then it saves the energy from the IoT devices, as communication over the internet is a energy intensive, unlike low energy technology such as the Bluetooth. So ये energy को save करता है. It is a wireless personal area network technology designed and marketed by the Bluetooth special interest group at novel application in the healthcare, fitness में, right, security. So ये save करता है energy को. Another gateway का resource is the reduce the response latency to the IoT devices. How it reduces the response latency to the IoT devices? Again, here we are talking about the, because somewhere you are getting the data from the local disk only, right? So some devices require real-time responses from the system, fast response चाहिए. So उस case में हम reduce the response latency to the IoT devices we are talking about. So another component we have talked about the cloud. Cloud for the storing, analyzing, and the managing the data. So another component here we are talking about the cloud is a computing resource responsible for storing, analyzing, and managing the data. Or we are saying that the group of computers that people can access over the internet to use their computing power for a particular purpose. Cloud storage आप यूज भी कर रहे होंगे अपने लैपटॉप पे, राइट? सो वन ड्राइव जो आप यूज करते हैं, क्लाउड स्टोरेज यूज करते हैं. द क्लाउड इज वेयर अ लार्ज फाइल ऑफ अ रो सेंसर डेटा इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ neat little files of a valuable information. Somewhere data analysis is performed here. The cloud can be powered by the analytics softwares. Here we are talking about the analytics software. जहाँ हम कहीं analysis की बात कर रहे हैं तो बहुत सारे डेटा को एक particular structured format में convert करके उसका visualization कर रहे हैं. So somewhere the cloud is using the various analytics software, then the visualization of a data with the help of it is using various visualization tools also somewhere you are performing various algorithms also, so you are using the artificial intelligence and the machine learning in a depth for the data analysis and the processing, whatever the data is storing in a cloud. And the most popular cloud computing providers are the Microsoft Azure and the AWS IoT. अब सबसे पहला एडवांटेज क्या है क्लाउड का? इट इज इजीली स्केलेबल. इट इज एन एसेंशियल रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर बिल्डिंग एन इफेक्टिव IoT system. Another component is basically a devices or the applications. So when the software development companies build software products for the IoT system, right? अगर हम IoT ecosystem की बात कर रहे हैं, तो जब software development companies आपकी एक पर्टिकुलर सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोडक्ट बना रही हैं, they will cover all the 7 components. उनको ये सारे 7 components cover करने हैं and will create a system that cover all the requirements at every level. So because applications में हम discuss कर चुके हैं क्या क्या हम different applications. So an application is where a user can interact with the IoT ecosystem. So this interaction is mainly made possible by the graphical user interfaces, by the application layer, by the presentation layer, where the user can consult the analysis report, can use the analysis report which has been done on a cloud and control the system and manage the devices. Now, what are the list of the technologies that will be used in the development? The different programming languages we are talking about here, the C, C++, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, the deployment framework we are talking about, the Node.js, right? And the various Eclipse device, AngularJS, and the third-party APIs we are talking about here, the Google Assistant, the Google Home, the Google Vision, all the third-party application programming interface we are talking about, or we are talking about here, the application components can be divided into programming languages or the development framework or the third-party application programming interfaces. And the last and the 7th component of the IoT is the users. It uses the most important components among the 7 components of the Internet of the Things ecosystem. How? Because users have 2 roles. They use the IoT ecosystem for their needs. एक तो वो अपने लिए use कर रहे हैं. Secondly, the IoT ecosystem should serve the people. Here, the possibility is offered by the Internet of Things are becoming a valuable databases for all type of users. Whether आप अपने business के लिए use कर रहे हो या the personal use के लिए, जो cloud computing है, जो cloud technology है, उसके basis पे आप अपने data को store करवा रहे हो. So with the help of a, for example, sensor and the various IoT applications can become the professional healthcare assistants that measure the patient's biometrics, and this will help to make more accurate diagnosis, right? More accurate diagnosis, or we can say that the data discovery is possible here. As the data is stored, the each and every kind of a data has been stored, the data histories can be generated. The healthcare assistance में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं तो किसी patient की जो proper data history है उसके basis पे हम एक accurate diagnosis लेने में help कर सकते हैं. Secondly, the Internet of the Things ecosystem should serve the people all and meet their needs and provide information that assists them in achieving their goals. Here we are talking about the business intelligence part. So, but who can be a user, right? अब हम ecosystem में user आपके IoT में कौन-कौन user हो सकता है? Users can be a gadget for a personal use, right? People who use a particular IoT gadget for a personal use. आप एक user हो, researchers जो particular research करने के लिए, like robotic research करने के लिए, robotic अभी आपके surgeries perform होती हैं उनके लिए, researchers के लिए particular बीमारी को ऊपर रिसर्च करने के लिए, तो researchers or different researchers can be a user. A particular IoT gadget for a personal use is a user, and the doctors, all the warehouse workers, all the carriers and the engineers are the particular people here we are talking about, right? IoT gadgets को we can say that the particular product we are using, right? Personals को we are talking about the particular people are using, right? And the stakeholders and the top managers. So here we are using the different kind of person that are involved in a project management or the particular managers, right? So all these are using the Internet of Things for their purposes.